Hey everyone, my name is Monroe, man, and we're having a break diving book club event. We got two people here today. The other few that signed up decided to bail out, but we're going to discuss it anyway. The book that we're talking about actually is called Why Nations Fail. I'll show you this is what page you're on here, 17. I'll show you the Why Nations Fail: The Origins of Power, Prosperity, and Poverty, and the author's name is cut off. That's great. Well, here we go. Here are the names by two people, Acemoglu and Robinson. And full disclosure, neither of us have read the book in its entirety. I actually have just read the introduction in the first chapter, and I don't think Kelly has read any of it yet. Am I right?
No, I haven't read any of it.
Part that we're going to discuss, at least for this first part of this this book club event for this book, and it's this paragraph here. So maybe we should all just read this together for a brief moment silently.
Mm-hmm.
You finish reading?
Yeah.
So the part that they are arguing is that poor countries are countries such as Great Britain and the US became rich because their citizens overthrew the elites who controlled power. And they created a society where political rights were much broadly distributed, where the government was accountable and responsive to citizens, or when the great mass of people could take advantage of economic opportunities. And so that's their theory. Whether it's true or not is up for debate, but certainly the United States is one of the most, and Great Britain are two of the most wealthy countries in the world, and people consider them successful. Obviously, they both have problems. And the interesting thing, though, and I guess this is the argument. I mean, you have relationship to China. Obviously, your parents are from China. I lived in China for a number of times, and it's a curious thing because technically, people in China don't have any political rights. And the government is not accountable to the citizens at all. But it seems like most people can take advantage of economic opportunities. And I mean, if people that go to China, if you go to Shanghai, if you go to Beijing, if you go to Shenzhen, wherever, it's still, you can still create a job, start a business, and have a good standard of living there.
Yes.
But it's a communist government, and you can't vote, and you can't criticize the government, or you'll end up in jail.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, because this doesn't seem to apply to China, does it? What are your thoughts?
I feel like China is a communist country, but its economy-wise is a little bit different. It has like a mixed economy with like combination of like command economy and a free market, you know? So I asked my dad one time like how it works. Like if you like you're an entrepreneur and you start a business, is that business your own property? And he said that it depends. Like some business are your properties, but some of them are still controlled by the government. So I don't really understand like the
technically,
deeper side of
China, from what I understand legally, you cannot start a business in China that is completely free of government oversight. Whereas the truth is, even in the U.S., there's government oversight of every business, but they're not as controlling
Control.
of what exactly the business can or can't do. I think the big difference, I think you're right, is that China, there is that difference between politics and economics.
Yeah.
And this analysis right here was lumping those two things together. Oh, Bhavya wants to join.
Yay.
Yeah, so that's cool. And I think the interesting thing about China is that, yeah, the political side of it is completely communist command and control, whereas there's a fly that's flying around and it's driving me crazy. It's got command and control over my life right now. This little fly. But yeah, they don't have, but generally, economically, things are, as far as I understood living and working there, was relatively free. And I lived a reasonably good life in Shanghai. So I'm curious what these authors would think of. Hi, Bhavya.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey,
Hi, Kawai.
while we're
Hi,
talking,
Monroe.
you can read this paragraph. This is from What Nations Fail. We're just having a
Okay.
brief discussion about that. And,
Mm-hmm.
But I think in general, if the political rights are more distributed, like I feel like the country is more like richer, you know?
yeah, I
Like
think
the power
that's
is
the
more.
big argument with, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you can go ahead. I don't really have that.
I think the big argument in terms of this Chinese experiment of this mixed system where it's politically communist, but the economy is more free market is, can it last? Is it going to work in the
Yeah.
long term? And I mean, there's no doubt that China's economy has grown dramatically in the last 30 years. And the lives of, has the life of your grandmother improved greatly in the last 30 years?
Yes. Yes.
Does she feel like it's a lot different from the 1980s?
Especially recent years when technologies and improvements started to massively grow, like especially when now you can't just pay cash when you're going to a restaurant. You use like WeChat, like something similar to PayPal, but like the Chinese version.
Yeah. I was surprised when I lived there in 2015. Everything was with my Chinese ICBC debit card. And then when I went back to live there again in 2019, there were numerous places that wouldn't take cash, and they wouldn't take my ICBC, which is one of the Chinese banks, debit card. I had to use WeChat.
Yeah, nobody used cards or cash.
Yeah, a lot of the street vendors. I went to Mount Putuo, which is a Buddhist. It's an island about 4 hours south, I think, of Shanghai. And I went there with my friend, and we took a boat over to the island. And the island, there's incredible numbers of monasteries for monks. And it's a big tourist attraction, and all these people on the booths were selling things. Usually, it would be cash. They wouldn't take the cash. They wanted it via WeChat or through Alipay.
Yeah.
And
Is WeChat is an app or?
WeChat is like an app in China that it's by Tencent. That's the name of the company, and it combines similar like Facebook, PayPal, Twitter, Amazon. I mean, it puts all of it all together in one super app. It has, it's like Uber as well. And
Yeah.
so, Bhavya, did you read this paragraph? The sentence here is that we were talking about is here.
Yes. Okay.
This one here, that the more wealthy countries are the ones where political rights are more distributed. The government was more accountable and responsive, and there was more free economic opportunities. But I was just thinking about, I don't know if they're going to talk about China in this book. This is just the introduction, and I found it very interesting. That's how far I got plus chapter 1. And chapter 1 was talking about the Incas in South America and Mexico, and talking about how Nogales, Arizona, is completely different than Nogales, Mexico. And they're the same city, just separated by a country. But I don't know if they talk about China. It's very interesting, and the whole issue with Hong Kong right now. I mean, that's a big controversial subject, and China's claiming that it's theirs, and they're putting these new laws into place. But people in Hong Kong are upset, feeling that their freedoms are being taken away. And so I honestly believe, this is I have my bachelor's in international economics, and I lived in China and I lived in the United States. I think it's a mistake. I think that the world influence of Hong Kong is going to greatly diminish in the next 5 years. And because they're taking away these political rights, and the economic opportunities, I think, are being removed. I just read that almost all tech companies are leaving Hong Kong now because
of the political issue, or?
Because of the new law, which requires that China, Beijing, has access to every database item in your database. So, because in China they have control over everything, and so. And I'm just curious. I'm wondering if that fact, this theory here, we're going to be able to see if it's accurate or not based on if we look at Hong Kong in the next 5 years. Does it remain this international finance hub, or does it change? And the other question too is, I mean, it's not like the United States is immune from criticism here too. The United States has changed a lot in the last 50 years as well. And the argument here they were talking about in the chapter 1 and is the countries that have terrible poverty and poor education and bad medical systems are typically those where the power is 100% centralized with elites, meaning there's a larger gap between the rich and the poor, and the rich, I don't want to say the rich and the poor, but the people with power and the people who don't have power. And the people with power have become the political elites, and they start to make laws and do everything that helps them keep their power, meanwhile not helping those that are in poverty. And a big example is Venezuela, of course. I mean, that country was one of the richest apparently in South America until socialism and communism took over, and that took away many of the political rights. The government became completely unaccountable to the citizens, and now they lost almost all of their economic opportunities. I think we in America are remiss if we just assume that, oh, we're so rich and powerful now, we're going to stay that way. Because, and I'm not even talking about Trump or Biden politically in that sense, but I just mean if the country continues to become, I think government is corrupt everywhere in every country. And perhaps it was less so in the United States 150 years ago, but the federal government has grown so big. I mean, think about it. There was no income tax, I think, in throughout all the 1800s in the United States. I think the income tax only came around in like 1920s, and there was an amendment to the Constitution that allowed an income tax. And now the IRS didn't exist in the 1800s. And I'm just thinking every year, every presidency, there are more and more government agencies. More and more complexity. It's, of course, the more big government gets, the more corrupt it becomes because you can't keep track of it. You and I and Kelly, Bhavya, Monroe, we all live in the US now. We have no control over what's going on in that government. And our tax money is being stolen by every administration. And I don't even think the president of the United States can do anything about it. It's like it's so ingrained. So I'm scared for the United States. And my dog is making weird noises underneath the, if you hear.
Yeah, I hear it.
Is agreeing. So dog does not like corruption either. I mean, what do you guys think about this? And then we'll finish up the meeting in the next 5 minutes. I'm just curious. Do you think the United States has to worry too about potentially becoming a poor nation in the future? Could the U.S. fail?
That's a really interesting question. Let me think.
I mean, the answer, of course, is yes.
But maybe it's not so soon. Like, I feel like, yes, the federal government grew so much in the past years. And it's taking over a lot of the power. But there's never gonna be like a perfect government because you just keep on growing. Like you said, you can't keep track of it all.
Mhm.
So
you are right. Let me switch. Bhavya, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
No, I don't. Yeah.
You make an interesting point, Kelly. But look at the Roman Empire. It rose up. It was the most powerful thing in the world. It's gone. And it was gone, I think, after. Let's do a Google search. Let's find out how many years, I think it was about 300, but I don't know, did the Roman Empire last? Okay, I was wrong. I thought it was 300, but it's 1500. But maybe I'm thinking of, I don't think their definition is the same. Let me see. Well, actually, they have it here, 1200, first as a kingdom. The fall in 476, yeah. Let's just click this and just see this. We're going to learn something about the Roman Empire today, guys, as well. How long did the Roman Empire last? Okay. Well, here, it says the Roman, that's what I was talking about. It was like 300-400 years. It began technically with the crowning of Gaius Octavius Thurinus in 31 BC, or Thurinus, and then fell in AD 476. So it was approximately 500 years. Even though they're saying Rome itself lasted 1,200 years because it was a kingdom before. But the empire itself, you could say the United States began with colonists back in, the 1500s, or the 1400s. Christopher Columbus discovered the American 1492. And yes, I just said that, despite all the controversy. And the question is, if the Roman Empire fell, because it got too big, it got too ambitious, it tried to expand everywhere, it just didn't stop. And eventually they couldn't control it any longer, and the thing just fell apart.
Especially in the US, you have so many freedom of rights, and then you see nowadays so many people are having prides, and so many people are having about sexuality, about racism. There's so much problems rising up because people are saying that they have the freedom of rights and then they need to speak up. And I don't think government can do much about it either because so many people around the world are doing this.
Yeah, my big fear is that, the United States, 1776, then, what is it, 1776, 1876, 1976, it's been about 270 years or so. And we're having a great experiment here, just like China is. Whether their system can work, whether our system can work. And the problem is that nations fail. I didn't even finish reading the whole book. This is just, nations fail gradually. They don't fail because of a major decision and that's it. No, the countries slowly erode their principles that they were founded upon. They slowly. I personally, I don't believe the United States is a racist nation. I think that's a big fallacy and a farce. And I just read something that apparently in the last 10 years or something, over 2 million, if not more, Black Africans have emigrated to the United States. And the person who said this said, if that's the case, are they stupid? Why would Black Africans come to a horrible, racist nation? Why would you go into the lion's den and come to a place where you're going to be treated horribly? The truth is, 99% of Blacks in this country are treated very, very well. Same thing with 99% of Asians, Indians. I mean, people don't come to this nation because it's racist. You don't go to a racist nation. So I don't think we're going to fail because we are a racist nation, because I don't think we are. I think we will fail because people think we are. And I think the media is constantly pushing this notion that we are a racist nation when that's not accurate. Is there racism? 100%. There are racist people in the world and in the United States, in my town. I'm sure there's somebody who hates white people. I mean, racism is not just like whites against blacks or whites against, I mean, there are blacks and Asians and Indians who are racist against whites too. I mean, that's something that people don't talk about either. But I think just in conclusion with this, I just think I think we all should read this book, because whether or not we agree with what their premise is, I mean, just this discussion is important for us as Americans to think, okay, what do we need to do to ensure that the country doesn't fail in 100 years? I think it would be a great shame if the United States dies because of this fighting between everybody, because everybody is angry at one. I'm hoping breakdiving can help bring people together. Maybe breakdiving will save America. Hooray. By sharing our philosophy that, hey, stop yelling at everybody, stop being angry, try to find the ways that you're similar with one another. I mean, if you come onto breakdiving, you would think racism doesn't exist in the world.
I think racism has a lot to do with stereotype, and stereotypes has a lot to do with people making conclusion when you see people at first sight, which is like usually not true. So yeah, but that just comes with the human nature, you know. You can help to reduce like you're making a conclusion, but it's still gonna happen sometimes.
I think the fallacy with the stereotypes, everyone says you shouldn't stereotype or you shouldn't be prejudiced.
I think it's not stereotype.
But you can't live in this world without being stereotypical and prejudicial, because otherwise you can't survive as a human animal. This is something I studied when I did my PhD in psychology, the fact that we are all prejudiced. And we are all stereotype, and people watching going, no, I'm not. Yes, you do. When you go to a traffic light and it says red, are you prejudging that other, or excuse me, when there's a green light, are you being prejudicial by prejudging that you can go through that safely without another car coming to hit you? You're making a prejudgment based on past experience. Same thing with a stereotype. If you hear someone has the name Mike, and you make the stereotypical assumption that that person is probably from an English-speaking nation, are you wrong to assume? No. Most people named Mike are from England, or Australia, or the United States. I mean, but are there people in China who choose that name for their English name, Mike?
Yeah.
Jack Ma. Jack Ma. He's not a white guy from America, but, you know, stereotypically, it could be somebody from an English-speaking country. So I think you are right that we stereotype and we're too prejudiced, but I also think people take it too far, because those are the ways that we survive in this world. The problem is when we take it so far that we don't do any research of our own. And I think that's a problem with the news today. Everybody just assumes what they listen to on the news. And they do no independent research whatsoever. And they just assume it's true. I mean, the example that I always have is Trump is not perfect, but he is not as terrible as a lot of the news media make him out to be.
My dad totally agrees with that.
Look at Wikipedia. Look at Wikipedia. Look at what they say about Obama, and then look at what they say about Trump. Obama is all of his accomplishments on the first page. Trump is how terrible he is and all the bad things he's done. And I think that is terrible, that this is what this world has come to, that everything is biased politics. And no, go figure, people think that Wikipedia is this objective, fair and balanced source of information when it's completely false, fake news. And somebody reads about Obama, they think he's a god. He's never made a mistake in his life. And you look at Trump and you think he is Satan incarnate and he's never done anything good. Both of those are completely inaccurate. And I think that's what's going to be the downfall of the United States and the downfall of Great Britain. And I think the downfall of this world. If people don't start being fair and honest in the way they describe things and people, we're all done. And I think that's what breakdiving is doing a great job of, is pointing out that let's try to find the good in everybody and let's treat everybody fairly. I love that. They always talk about, we need to treat people fairly. We need to treat people fairly. And they don't do it themselves. I see time and time again that the people that say people need to be treated fairly completely criticize the other people for expressing their simple opinion.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think it's got to stop. And I think in the next 20 years, if it doesn't stop, the U.S. is gone. The U.S. it'll still be here, but I don't think it's going to be the great America that we grew up in. Anyway, this was a great chat. Do you guys have any final thoughts? Bhavya, you have to say something. Give some thought on what we just discussed.
No, I'm just thinking this book sounds interesting, so I had to start reading. And about political, I didn't have much idea, so that's why I was I had to start learning about this.
You just inspired me with an idea, Bhavya. Thank you for speaking up. For all of our book club events, I noticed that after the book club event is over, you can't find the link to download the book anymore. We should create a page or something that has a link for people to download the versions of the book so that they can read it even after the event is over. Like right now, how would you find it? Because the event is, so anyway, that's just something for us to discuss later.
Yes, yeah.
I usually, if I register for any event, I will bookmark that link. Like if I register for a book club event.
Cool. Well, this was a great discussion. I learned something, and hope you both did too. For those of you watching on YouTube, we would love you to join our community. You can be a part of these events. You can help shape our community. You can help make the world a better place by becoming a break diver at breakdiving.io. We've got book club events. We have French chat, German chat, Chinese chat. We have chill chat. We have cheer me up chat. We have so many events on so many topics. We're gonna have dance events soon where we teach. We have a dance instructor teach you how to dance. We have meditation events, and it's a party. That's all I can say. It's a great party. We're happy that Kelly and Bhavya joined today. And sometimes we have events with 9, 10, 12 people. So check us out at breakdiving.io. We are the happiest, most supportive place on the internet. And we look forward to having you come join us. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.